Greetings everyone, and welcome to the grand finale, the grand second to last installment of Hearthstone Classes Revisited. In this series, I take one of Hearthstone's classes and spice it up with a bit of my own flavor in the form of new mechanics and archetypes, with the goal being to expand how the class can be played and open it up to new players who wouldn't normally enjoy the class. This time around, we'll be looking to grow some new mechanics for the Druid class. So, without further ado, let's get right into the rework by starting off with an overview of the Druid class identity. Druids in Hearthstone are protectors of the wild. Well, not that wild. Actually, they are quite a destructive force in that wild. Rather, they are guardians of life and magic, with the class having access to many spells that summon the forces of nature to aid them. This theme is especially present with their token archetype, which sees them summoning many treants. Another one of the class's mechanics and their biggest strength is the ability to manipulate their mana. Often referred to as ramp, Druids can play cards that put them further ahead of their opponent. They also have many effects that refresh their mana crystals as well. Finally, Druid has their class keyword, Choose One, which gives them more flexibility to make decisions depending on their situation. Now, for this revisit, I felt it best to focus on expanding the pre-existing Druid playstyles, with the goal being to make them feel a bit more unique and in theme with the class. And since the class already has a very mechanically satisfying keyword, I didn't feel it necessary to give them another one. So, with all that in mind, let's take a look at what I came up with, starting off with a new mechanic that changes up how Druids play token-style decks. One of the things I really wanted to touch on with this revisit is Druid's token archetype. Currently, the way Token Druid plays is almost identical to any other token strategy in the game, and it doesn't have much of a unique spin on it. A class like Shaman has mechanics such as Evolve or Totem buffs to distinguish their token decks, while Druid's is very basic. Just summon a bunch of minions and play a spell that buffs them. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but with the archetype being one of Druid's main mechanics, I feel it could benefit from having something that shakes up how Druids interact with their tokens. So, what I came up with is a new mechanic for the Druid class that changes how you buff your minions. Fields are a new type of spell that buff a certain number of minions and then expire. They function similar to Paladin's new auras, in the sense that when played, they become a passive effect displayed on your hero. But rather than expiring after a few turns, they provide a buff to any minions you summon until the spell's specified number of minions is reached. Note that these spells affect minions summoned, meaning any minions played from hand or summoned by other effects are still buffed by fields. Also, you may have up to 5 fields in play at a time, but cannot have multiple of the same field. Let's take a look at an example. The spell Field of Ironbark will give the next free minion summoned +1, +2, and Taunt, so this spell will only affect the next free minion summoned no matter when or where they are summoned from. There could also be more complex designs, such as this card, Field of Fertility, which will buff the next 5 minions you summon, but each buff becomes worse than the last. I think these fields could definitely change up how Token Druid plays by adding more flexibility on how the minions they summon can be used. But that is not the only thing I have in store for this revisit. One other portion of the Druid class I'd like to expand upon is their theme of mana manipulation. Druid Ramp is a mechanic that is at the very core of the class, with almost all Druid decks running some form of it. So what I'd like to do is provide my own twist on the mechanic, with a new archetype that focuses on the less explored consequences of having more mana than you know what to deal with. What if Druid had a way of taking advantage of their excess mana while using less of their resources to do so? Instead of spending all their mana each turn, what if they were rewarded when they don't? This new archetype makes use of the unspent mana you've had throughout the game, converting it into all sorts of different benefits. I could see this being quite useful in slower decks where this package of cards could allow you to keep up while spending very little of your own resources. Alright, so that's the main mechanic and archetype I wanted to introduce with this class revisit, but there is still one more thing I wanted to share with you all. This idea is less of a major addition, but more of something that helps expand a certain theme that I feel is very underrepresented in the Druid class. For those who don't know, in WoW and many other forms of media, a common Druidic power is the ability for them to shapeshift into many different wild animals. And in Hearthstone, while we have some Druid minions that show off this ability, I think it would be cool to allow your hero to shapeshift themselves in some way. What I decided upon was having cards that allow your hero to shift into different animals, represented by temporarily swapping your hero power with a new one. This card, Wild Tamer, allows you to choose between shifting into cat or bear form, giving you access to one use of that animal's hero power. Having the different animal forms tied to a unique temporary hero power is a great way to add a large variety of unique animal forms, each that can synergize with their own deck or playstyle. You could even lean into this idea more and make cards that synergize with using your hero power each turn. Now, the final card that I have to show is one that allows Druid to embrace the power of the wild and permanently shapeshift into the Great August Celestial, Zuen. This legendary beast permanently replaces your hero power with Tiger form, which gives your hero +4 attack and 2 armor, and swaps those amounts each turn, allowing you to play both aggressively and defensively when needed. And that is the Druid class revisit. If you liked the ideas presented here or have some of your own, please leave a comment down below. But with that, we have finished revisiting 9 out of the 10 classes, meaning that next time we'll be finishing this series off with one of Hearthstone's more recent classes. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on my revisit of Demon Hunter.
You are not prepared!